We've all admired the glitz, the glamour, the impossibly perfect image of old Hollywood stars. But behind the dazzling lights and designer gowns was a very different reality, one that didn't smell quite so sweet. Today, we're revealing the shocking truth about 25 legendary stars from the golden age of Hollywood who were infamous, not for their acting, but for their unforgettable body odor. Buckle up. Things are about to get stinky. 1. Clark Gable. Clark Gable may have been Hollywood royalty, but even kings can smell. Known for his commanding presence and iconic roles, Gable suffered from chronic halitosis due to full dentures by age 32, but his problems didn't stop at the mouth. On hot sets, the actor often worked long hours in heavy costumes, and his refusal to use deodorant or change outfits between takes meant he'd develop a thick, musky scent that clung to him. Co-stars often dreaded romantic scenes, not because of nerves, but because of Gable's pungent presence. Sophia Loren, during the filming of It Started in Naples, reportedly asked for more space between takes. Even on The Misfits, his last film, crew members noted that his presence could be smelled before he entered a room. Gable, ever the old-school method actor, believed that cologne or deodorant would interfere with his natural masculinity, and directors didn't dare challenge the king. Instead, makeup and wardrobe departments were tasked with covering up the scent as best they could, often powdering him down between takes. His legacy remains intact, but those who worked closely with Gable remembered him as much for his powerful screen presence as they did for his unforgettable odor. Errol Flynn swung from chandeliers and romanced women on screen. But off-screen, he reeked of something far less charming. Known for his hard partying and heavy drinking, Flynn's hygiene declined dramatically during his career. As his alcoholism progressed, his sweat reportedly carried the distinct odor of booze, and his reluctance to bathe after long nights made it worse. He often wore the same clothes multiple days in a row, and his natural musk combined with stale liquor was a challenge for anyone near him. Olivia de Havilland, his frequent co-star, reportedly found ways to diplomatically suggest he freshen up before intimate scenes, offering him a gift of cologne or a fresh shirt. Wardrobe notes on the Seahawk and the Adventures of Don Juan reveal that costume pieces had to be laundered or replaced more frequently than those of other stars, simply to keep the odor from seeping through. Despite the charm and glamour that oozed from the screen, Flynn's off-screen odor told a different story. It was a secret whispered among crew members, joked about behind closed doors, but never acknowledged publicly, because Flynn was box office gold, even if he smelled like yesterday's whiskey and regret. 3. James Dean. James Dean wasn't just rebelling against society, he was rebelling against soap. The icon of misunderstood youth, Dean's personal hygiene became as notorious as his brooding performances. During the filming of Rebel Without a Cause, crew members complained repeatedly about Dean's refusal to bathe. He wore the same clothes for days and rarely used deodorant, believing cleanliness was a bourgeois construct that interfered with artistic authenticity. Director Nicholas Ray reportedly confronted Dean about the odor several times after co-star Natalie Wood expressed discomfort during close scenes. Dean, ever the defiant figure, responded by quoting lines from poetry about naturalism and staying untouched by conformity. Even Elia Kazan, who directed Dean in East of Eden, noted that while Dean had raw talent, his earthy scent often made rehearsals uncomfortable. He was known to believe that real people didn't mask their smells, and that acting should reflect life in all its messy, musky glory. Unfortunately, the crew didn't always appreciate the realism. Makeup artists were forced to work extra hours dealing not just with his appearance, but with masking his scent using powders and fabrics. Dean died young and remained forever frozen in our imagination. But to those who knew him personally, the memory may include more than just his magnetic screen presence. 4. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was the ultimate method actor, but his method didn't include showering. From A Streetcar Named Desire to The Godfather, Brando's performances left audiences breathless, but his co-stars often struggled just to breathe. Known for his disregard for Hollywood conventions, Brando rejected deodorant, rarely bathed during filming, and wore unwashed clothing repeatedly. Vivian Leigh, his Streetcar co-star, once confessed to friends that Brando's body odor during intense scenes was intolerable. His reasoning? Smell was part of the character. He believed sweat, stink, and raw physicality were necessary tools in crafting a believable performance. By the time he filmed Apocalypse Now, Brando's hygiene was so bad that director Francis Ford Coppola reportedly arranged for air fresheners on set. Makeup artists developed techniques not just for hiding blemishes, but also for neutralizing the odor wafting from Brando's body. He didn't seem to mind. He was there to act, not to charm the crew. The contradiction between Brando's on-screen magnetism and off-screen aroma was stark, and yet no one dared challenge him. He was too brilliant, too untouchable. But ask any co-star who had to share a scene, or worse, a kiss, with him, and they'll tell you, Brando's performances were unforgettable, and, unfortunately, so was his scent. 5. Judy Garland. Judy Garland enchanted millions with her voice, but her personal struggles left a far less charming trace. As her career progressed, Garland's battles with addiction and depression began to erode not only her health, but her hygiene. During the filming of A Star Is Born, her erratic behavior extended to skipping showers and arriving on set in stained clothes. Crew members reported that during low points, Garland's odor was overwhelming, a mix of cigarettes, alcohol, and untreated body sweat. Her longtime makeup artist once admitted he kept scented powders and sprays nearby just to neutralize the smell before scenes. Even co-stars noticed. Dirk Bogarde, during I Could Go On Singing, described how her condition could swing dramatically from pristine to disheveled within a day. The inconsistency wasn't vanity, it was survival. Garland's dependence on pills, forced on her since childhood at MGM, left her sleep-deprived, emotionally unstable, and often indifferent to personal grooming. Her assistants were sometimes tasked with ensuring she showered and changed clothes. Sadly, Judy's hygiene wasn't a deliberate rebellion or laziness. It was a symptom of profound trauma and pressure. While her fans saw a glowing star, those behind the scenes saw a woman overwhelmed, her body betraying the pain she couldn't hide. 6. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes started out as a clean-cut playboy, dating Hollywood's most glamorous women, but he ended as one of the most famously foul-smelling recluses of all time. His obsessive-compulsive disorder morphed into a full-blown hygiene nightmare. In his later years, Hughes refused to bathe for months at a time, lived naked in hotel rooms, and avoided human contact. Former staff reported that his body odor was unbearable, rancid, stale, and persistent. But the irony? Hughes was terrified of germs. He believed bathing exposed him to contamination. Instead, he developed elaborate rituals to avoid direct contact with soap, water, or even towels, unless they met bizarre sterilization requirements. He wore tissue boxes on his feet instead of shoes, and let his fingernails grow to grotesque lengths. Despite this, he maintained absurdly high standards for the women he dated. If a woman had a blemish, or didn't meet his rigid cleanliness criteria, He refused to touch her. His descent into foul-smelling isolation was so severe that even his most loyal aides had to wear gloves and masks to work near him. The man who once helmed Hughes aircraft and bedded starlets like Ava Gardner ended up a prisoner of his own compulsions, one whose stench, by all accounts, could clear a room. 7. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor dazzled on screen and off, but there was a hidden layer beneath the perfume and diamonds. Known for her explosive romances and glamorous image, Taylor had periods where her personal hygiene faltered dramatically, especially during turbulent chapters of her life. During the filming of Cleopatra, Italian crew members whispered that the Hollywood star didn't always bathe between long, exhausting days on set. Instead, she'd douse herself in strong French perfumes, attempting to mask the buildup of sweat and stress. Close friends and assistants later admitted that Taylor's hygiene habits often mirrored her emotional state. When she was in love and thriving, she maintained high standards. But during her many bouts of depression, particularly during her fiery, on-again, off-again relationship with Richard Burton, she would sometimes go days without bathing or changing clothes. Makeup artists noted the extra effort required to make her camera ready during these periods, relying on powders and sprays to compensate. Yet no one dared call her out. She was Elizabeth Taylor. She wielded the power of a queen, even if she didn't always smell like one. Her legacy is rightfully one of beauty and brilliance, but for those behind the scenes, the real Taylor was sometimes far less polished than the perfume-soaked icon we remember. 8. Charlie Chaplin. The tramp's scent wasn't just an act. Charlie Chaplin's iconic tramp may have been a lovable vagrant on screen, but off-screen his hygiene wasn't much better. Lita Grey, Chaplin's teenage bride and second wife, described his body odor as a near-constant presence during their tumultuous marriage. She accused him of skipping baths and wearing the same underclothes for days. While some of her claims were part of a messy divorce, others in his inner circle echoed similar sentiments. Chaplin, when working on a film, often became so obsessed with perfection that he'd neglect everything else, including personal cleanliness. Assistants remembered that he would go days locked in his editing suite or on set without showering or changing clothes. The man behind City Lights in modern times was so consumed by his craft that he sometimes smelled more like his on-screen tramp than a millionaire filmmaker. Though he could clean up nicely for premieres, those closest to him, particularly during the silent film era, remembered Chaplin as charming but surprisingly unkempt. For a man who revolutionized comedy and emotion through visual storytelling, he left behind not only a cinematic legacy, but an olfactory one as well, just not the kind fans ever imagined. 9. Humphrey Bogart. Bad breath and body odor. A double threat. Humphrey Bogart may have been the ultimate tough guy, but behind his cool exterior was a hygiene double whammy: bad breath and strong body odor. His constant smoking, reportedly 3 packs a day, combined with a love of scotch and neglect of dental care, made his breath a problem all its own. But what most don't realize is that Bogey's whole body carried a particular scent. Long shooting days in hot sound stages, mixed with his reluctance to change costumes or use deodorant, led to co-stars quietly complaining about his smell. Ingrid Bergman, while filming Casablanca, reportedly asked the director to minimize close-up scenes after long shooting days. In The African Queen, Katharine Hepburn described the on-set odor as an adventure, a diplomatic way of saying the swamp wasn't the only thing that stunk. Bogart never denied it. In fact, he reportedly saw his natural musk as part of his appeal: authentic and unpretentious. He wasn't a pretty boy, he was real. While audiences were captivated by his gritty charm, those sharing a set or a kiss with him had a more pungent experience. Bogart gave us timeless lines and unforgettable characters. But to his co-stars, he also left behind something far less iconic, a scent that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. 10. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, the blonde bombshell, the very definition of Hollywood allure. But off-screen, Monroe's hygiene often contrasted sharply with her polished public persona. According to those who knew her best, Monroe was notoriously lax when it came to bathing. She frequently skipped showers, wore the same clothes repeatedly, and often avoided deodorant altogether. Her makeup artist, Alan "Whitey" Snyder, reportedly kept baby wipes and perfumed powders in his kit, just to freshen her up between takes. During the filming of The Misfits, co-star Clark Gable found Monroe's lack of hygiene a major turn-off. And that's saying something, considering Gable had his own breath issues. Monroe's personal assistant later revealed that the actress was indifferent to hygiene, often prioritizing comfort and spontaneity over grooming. She'd lounge in bed all day, sometimes not washing for 48 hours or more, especially during depressive episodes. Yet no one dared confront her directly. She was Marilyn Monroe, after all. Her scent, a mix of Chanel No. 5 and unwashed skin, became part of the enigma. Those who worked closely with her knew the truth. Beneath the diamonds and dresses was a woman whose hygiene didn't always match her legend. A reminder that even icons are human, sometimes very pungently so. 11. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was once the golden boy of method acting, brooding, sensitive, and heartbreakingly handsome. But after his near-fatal car crash in 1956, everything changed. The accident left him with severe facial injuries and chronic pain. As his addiction to painkillers and alcohol deepened, his hygiene began to suffer. Clift would often show up on set unwashed, his clothes rumpled and reeking of old sweat and cigarettes. By the time he filmed The Misfits with Marilyn Monroe, crew members noted the overwhelming odor that clung to him. His hair was often greasy, his breath sour, and his body odor so strong that makeup artists struggled to apply product. What made it worse was that Clift, once meticulous, had seemingly given up. According to close friend Elizabeth Taylor, Clift's hygiene deterioration mirrored his inner turmoil. During Suddenly, last summer, she reportedly arranged for assistants to gently guide him toward showers and clean clothing. But even then, it was an uphill battle. He was no longer the leading man audiences had adored, but a broken soul retreating from reality. His smell wasn't just the result of poor hygiene. It was the scent of a man unraveling, a haunting legacy for one of Hollywood's most tragic figures. 12th. Rita Hworth. Rita Hworth, the love goddess of 1940s cinema, was the picture of studio-manufactured perfection. Her luminous red hair and sultry presence defined an era. But behind that allure was a very unglamorous hygiene problem. To conform to Hollywood's rigid beauty standards, Hworth underwent a year-long series of electrolysis treatments to raise her hairline. The painful procedures left her scalp permanently damaged. As a result, she developed seborrheic dermatitis, a chronic condition that caused excessive flaking, oil buildup, and a strong, sour odor. Makeup artists tasked with styling her hair often found themselves battling the smell of inflamed skin and chemical residue from the harsh dyes used to maintain her signature color. Hworth herself reportedly hated washing her hair, both because of the pain and because of the emotional trauma tied to the studio's forced changes. Co-stars like Glenn Ford and Orson Wells, her husband at one point, learned to be discreet about the problem. While the public saw a radiant screen siren, Those behind the scenes saw a woman battling chronic discomfort, who sometimes smelled as exhausted as she felt. It was yet another instance where Hollywood's illusion masked a far messier truth, perfumed only for the cameras. 13. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis was the quintessential 1950s heartthrob, suave, smooth-talking, and movie star handsome. But according to some co-stars, the fantasy came with a strong scent of reality. Curtis, who rose to fame in films like Some Like It Hot, was reportedly known for his overpowering body odor. Despite his polished image, insiders said he often neglected to wear deodorant and had a penchant for wearing the same undershirts for days at a time. Actress Janet Leigh, his wife for over a decade, never publicly addressed it, but crew members claimed she frequently requested fans and air fresheners on set. During the filming of The Vikings, Kirk Douglas supposedly joked that Curtis's musk was more threatening than the battle scenes. Curtis, like Brando, considered himself a naturalist in some ways, believing that too much cleanliness was unmanly. But this mindset didn't always sit well with his co-stars. Makeup artists occasionally applied scented powders under his arms just to neutralize the aroma before a scene. For someone whose looks launched 1,000 pin-ups, Curtis's scent was less than seductive. A man who could turn heads walking into a room, and then make people take a step back once he got close. 14. John Harlo. Jean Harlo was MGM's original blonde bombshell, iconic, ethereal, and impossibly glamorous. But her transformation into the platinum blonde came at a cost and a smell. To maintain her hair's shocking white hue, Harlo underwent weekly bleach treatments using a harsh mix of ammonia and peroxide. The chemical cocktail left her scalp raw, flaking, and often infected. Hairdressers working on Dinner at 8 described a strong medicinal odor that clung to her hair and lingered in enclosed sets. Worse, the treatments caused hair breakage and excess oil secretion, leading to an acrid, greasy odor. Harlo, famously averse to bathing in cold water, often skipped daily showers and relied heavily on perfumes to mask the smell. Her hairstylist once joked that the scent of ammonia followed her like a halo. While she was adored by fans for her bold style and sultry confidence, those who worked closely with Harlo knew that behind the dazzle was a potent mix of bleach, perfume, and sweat. Tragically, she died at just 26, her body weakened in part by the relentless demands of maintaining an image that literally ate away at her from the scalp down. 15. Elvis Presley. The king with killer halitosis. Elvis Presley could melt hearts with a single smile, but that smile often masked something far less romantic. Despite his obsession with grooming, his famous jet-black pompadour was a daily masterpiece. Elvis had a chronic problem with bad breath and occasional body odor, especially during his later Hollywood years. As his dependence on prescription drugs deepened in the 1960s, he became increasingly indifferent to personal hygiene. Painkillers and sedatives often dulled his sense of smell and caused dry mouth, contributing to foul halitosis that co-stars found difficult to ignore. Actress Mary Ann Mobley, who worked with him on Girl Happy, revealed that his breath during kissing scenes was not what fans imagined. Even more surprising, Elvis frequently skipped showers, relying instead on cologne and baby powder to freshen up. During Paradise Hawaiian Style, wardrobe assistants noted the constant need to replace or deodorize his costumes. By the 1970s, during his Vegas years, the once pristine king had become so bloated and lethargic that basic hygiene became an afterthought. His scent, much like his legacy, left a powerful impression, but for the wrong reasons. A man who was always camera-ready on the outside, while the inside and the odor told another story entirely. 16. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner's intoxicating beauty bewitched millions. But behind the glowing skin and magnetic gaze was a woman with a reputation for body odor that stunned even the boldest of leading men. Known for her hard-drinking lifestyle and rebellious spirit, Gardner often skipped showers after long nights of partying. Her sweat, mixed with alcohol and nicotine, created a heady scent that lingered on set. During The Sun Also Rises, co-star Tyrone Power reportedly avoided close contact scenes until Ava had been dusted off by wardrobe. One hairdresser revealed that Ava sometimes came to work in yesterday's makeup and the same clothes from the night before, still reeking of bourbon and cigarettes. And yet, Gardner didn't seem to care. In fact, she embraced a devil-may-care attitude toward her appearance, once telling a reporter that anyone who couldn't handle her morning breath and yesterday's perfume wasn't worth her time. Her unbothered boldness was part of her allure. While her scent might have driven people away, her charisma always pulled them right back in. Ava Gardner proved that true beauty can mesmerize, even if it doesn't always smell like roses. 17th. Bette Davis. Bette Davis was a powerhouse, bold, brash, and uncompromising. But her fierce independence also extended to her personal hygiene. Known for her chain-smoking, intense work ethic and no-nonsense attitude, Davis often rejected beauty standards that she deemed frivolous, including excessive grooming. On the set of All About Eve, cast and crew whispered about the noticeable body odor Davis carried, especially after long days under hot lights. She rarely reapplied makeup once she arrived, and was infamous for refusing deodorant, believing it was for soft girls. Even her co-star Ann Baxter once noted how intense Davis's scent could get by mid-afternoon. Davis considered hygiene concerns to be part of Hollywood's vanity problem and took pride in focusing on craft over comfort. She believed audiences came to see her act, not to smell her. Yet her scent became its own legend, strong, unforgettable, and impossible to ignore. The same could be said about Davis herself. 18. Orson Wells. Orson Wells was a visionary. Citizen Kane, Touch of Evil, and a string of brilliant performances. But personal cleanliness was never high on his priority list. As his weight ballooned and his health declined, Wells's hygiene reportedly took a nosedive. During the filming of The Third Man, director Carol Reed complained that Wells frequently arrived on set late, unwashed, and reeking of indulgence. His indulgence, of course, being cigars, red meat, and gallons of red wine. Even Joseph Cotten, his longtime friend and co-star, reportedly had to speak with Wells privately about the scent of excess. Costume assistants noted the need for constant wardrobe refreshes due to the sweat and smoke that soaked into his suits. But Wells, ever the iconoclast, waved off these concerns. He once quipped, "A little smell never ruined a masterpiece." Perhaps not, but for those on set, it made shooting one considerably harder. A legend in every way, including, unfortunately, the lingering aroma of a man who lived life far too large. 19. Jean-Paul Belmondo. Though not strictly a Hollywood fixture, French actor Jean-Paul Belmondo made waves internationally during the 1960s, starring in American-funded co-productions and drawing comparisons to stars like Brando and McQueen. But co-stars quickly realized that Belmondo brought more than just continental charm. He also brought a potent body odor. Known for his disregard of conventional grooming, Belmondo rarely used deodorant and believed in letting his body breathe. Unfortunately, this often translated into powerful underarm odor, especially during outdoor shoots. During Casino Royale, American crew members reportedly struggled with his presence in small sets. One producer jokingly referred to him as ode to existentialism. Belmando wasn't shy about it. He once laughed during an interview, saying American actors bathed too much and missed the animal instinct. That may have been true in theory, but in practice, it left an impression that lingered far beyond the final take. 20th. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was obsessive about cleanliness. Her white glove inspections, scalding baths, and harsh facial scrubs were legendary. But ironically, despite her compulsive cleaning rituals, several insiders claimed Crawford still suffered from a persistent body odor issue, particularly in her later years. The reason? Her fixation on cleanliness actually backfired. Crawford reportedly scrubbed her skin raw with abrasive soaps and alcohol-based tonics, stripping away her natural oils and damaging her skin's ability to regulate odor. One former assistant revealed that even after her morning ritual, which included steaming, soaking, and powdering, Crawford's body would begin to emit a sour, almost medicinal scent within hours. The makeup artists working on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane mentioned applying additional powder throughout the day, not for shine, but to combat the musty scent that lingered beneath her costume. To co-stars, this contradiction between her image of icy perfection and her quietly sour aroma was both bizarre and strangely sad. In Joan's case, the fear of being unclean may have created the very problem she tried so hard to avoid. 21st. Tracy Spencer. Tracy was one of the greatest actors of his generation, a no-nonsense powerhouse who lit up the screen. But his co-stars often dreaded scenes with him, not for his acting, but for his overpowering body odor. Tracy was a chronic sweater who never wore deodorant and smoked heavily, often lighting a cigarette seconds before stepping onto set. By mid-morning, his shirts would be soaked through, and the combination of stale sweat and tobacco smoke filled the air around him. Katharine Hepburn, his longtime companion, was reportedly one of the few who tolerated it with grace, though even she encouraged him to freshen up before particularly close scenes. Wardrobe teams learned to keep multiple spare shirts on hand, rotating them out between takes. One crew member on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner recalled that by late afternoon, standing next to Tracy during dialogue scenes felt like hugging an ashtray in a sauna. His brilliance was unquestioned, but his scent was unforgettable, and not in the way fans imagined. Known for his tireless work ethic and chaotic personal life, Rooney was often described as energetic, unpredictable, and unusually pungent. He sweated profusely under hot lights and rarely paused to freshen up, preferring to power through shoots no matter how long they ran. During the Andy Hardy series, co-stars like Judy Garland reportedly struggled with close scenes, describing a sweaty, sour odor that clung to his wardrobe. Makeup artists began applying scented talc to his shirts before dressing him, hoping to mask the smell. Even more telling, Rooney reportedly bragged that he didn't have time for showers when there were lines to memorize. A walking contradiction, fiercely dedicated, wildly talented, and blissfully unaware that his body odor sometimes stole the show. 23rd. Mae West. Mae West practically trademarked sultry glamour, but her famous musk wasn't always from perfume alone. Known for layering on rich, exotic scents, West used fragrance not just to enhance her allure, but to conceal something less divine. Those close to her said she rarely bathed daily, preferring to dab and go. As a result, the heavy perfumes often mingled with natural body odor in less than pleasant ways. On the set of Myra Breckinridge, several cast members privately complained that the mixture of sweat, powder, and perfume created a wall of scent that could be overwhelming. West believed that sweat was natural and that men loved a woman's essence. That may have been true, but for those standing in close proximity, her essence was often stronger than the dialogue. Despite the rumors, no one dared question her habits. She was Mae West, bold, brash, and completely unapologetic about every part of herself, stinky or not. 24. Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power had the chiseled jawline and effortless charm of a golden age dreamboat. But off-screen, the leading man wasn't quite as polished. Known for late nights, heavy drinking, and an unshakable routine of skipping morning showers after big parties, Power sometimes arrived on set still wearing the scent of the previous evening. Co-stars mentioned that while he always looked immaculate, the smell told another story. Whiskey-laced breath, stale cologne, and lingering body odor. One makeup artist claimed Power often doused himself in aftershave instead of showering, leaving a pungent trail that followed him through the studio. During the filming of The Black Swan, crew members joked that the villain's musk wasn't acting. It was just Power after 3 nights on the town. Still, few confronted him. He was too popular, too powerful. His scent might have raised eyebrows, but it never touched his box office numbers. 25th. Tula Bankhead. Tula Bankhead was larger than life, a theatrical force known as much for her wild wit as for her pungent presence. She embraced her eccentricities and proudly rejected the social expectations of ladylike hygiene. Bankhead frequently declared that daily bathing was a waste of time, and claimed soap dried out her skin. She once admitted to only bathing when it rains in Georgia. Co-stars on Lifeboat noted that her musky body odor mixed with her ever-present cigarettes and bourbon created a fog that surrounded her. But unlike others, Bankhead didn't care. She wore her smell like a signature, unapologetic, unfiltered, and ferociously free. Her hygiene, or lack thereof, became part of her legend. For Tula, a little stench was nothing compared to living life on her own, unwashed terms. And there you have it, the glamorously grim truth behind Hollywood's most iconic stars. Behind the powder and lights, some of your favorite legends left more than just lasting impressions. They left lingering scents. If you enjoyed this whiff of hidden history, like and subscribe for more secrets the studios never wanted you to smell.